Hello, hello, hello. Thank you very much. Lovely introduction. And walk-on music as well, which I was not expecting. Just to tell you a bit about us, I'm clicking next, so I'm hoping. No, and it's shot through about 4 slides, so there we go. Can you tell this is the first time I've done that? And the first photo can actually prove this. We were doing staff photo day when I was actually told off the cuff that I'd been asked to do this talk. This is when my normal photo was taken, and then that's when they told me, by the way, we're asking you to do this. They thought it'd be funny to do that halfway through the photo shoot because it was the first time I'd been invited, so I was quite chuffed with myself. It sort of brings me on to my next slide that I've been with the Go agency for 2 years now, when the company only had 30 employees. We're now up to 120 in our UK office. Worked with a number of brands from FIFA, William Hill, UEFA, Sega, and it's been really exciting to see where influencer marketing has come and how it builds into brands and what the strategy is. And in my personal experience, I work quite closely with all of our gambling betting experts as well. So it's been quite a journey to see where we've come in terms of a simple tweet to YouTube videos. So hopefully I'm going to sort of explain. And also from my personal background, I used to work in radio for TalkSport, where I used to manage most of the betting stuff there. So I've come a long way from race days with Alan Brazil and Ray Parler to now using tipsters and people that we don't really see the face of necessarily as well. So a little bit about us at Go. We are a global social agency, and we're driven purely by influencers as the start off of that. And this just proves where we are. We run over 1,000 campaigns in what we do, and over 70 countries worldwide. 28 local languages is what we post out content in, and many of our staff also speak in those native languages as well. We make sure that we're at the forefront and make sure that we have all the needs that our clients might need within pitches and briefs that we might receive. We have a London, a New York and Singapore office, and we're looking to expand even further this year as well. So all I can say is watch this space, but fingers crossed we'll have a few more offices when I, fingers crossed, get asked to speak again next year as well. So obviously the word influencer gets thrown around a lot, and it has its good connotations and its bad connotations. And what we try to do is very much myth bust everything that people know about influencers, and we educate brands as much as they need to be around the industry as well and how we work, because there's right ways to work and there's bad ways to work. And what we do is we observe every single influencer regardless of their scale. And what it is let's look back at the 1960s, 1950s. The only marketing that people really trusted were peer-to-peer recommendations. Well, that's what we have now, again, with influencers. It's gone back on itself. We have people, the everyday person, being able to tweet their response, tweet their expertise, and sort of get involved with the conversation. We've gone full circle where we're now looking at a market that can actually be engaged with further, which is where it comes in at iGaming as well. But there is a problem, and this brings me on to the myth. There's only 80% of influencers that actually work. And we need to work out which ones do work, and that's what we specialize in. As you can see here from our famous iceberg slide, our data plus our insights means that we know exactly what the value of an influencer is. Yourselves as a brand might look at influencer A and go, well, he gets the most views and he's got a great engagement rate, 10%, but influencer C, if we look at that stuff that's actually the performance data, we're getting more clicks, we're getting better conversion rate, and also further app downloads as well. Here at Goat, what we do is we pick apart those influencers, ask them for their data so we can actually observe exactly what's going on. It's key for us to find those insights, because if you guys come to us and say we're using this guy, well, we can pick that apart and say, well, we've got a reason why you might not want to, because when we dig deep enough, there's a chance that we might not be getting exactly what we need. Influencer first works. Now, the first neuroscience study was done on influencers, and these are just a couple of the key percentages that came out. That 277% were more emotionally intense towards a post from an influencer, and also 58% more likely to feel positive about being hit by a second ad. Of course, many of you may come up against the age-old proverb that social might not have the value and things like that. Well, what I'm going to be doing is sort of talking through exactly how at Goat we go through the value and also build the value. Welcome offers all very nice, but what we want to do is obviously keep these guys playing and make sure that people are still re-engaging with the app and sort of following the journey of the app as it develops, especially for those that are new to the market as well. And this, again, just on my point about peer-to-peer recommendations being some of the strongest form of marketing. We all know our mates can recommend things to us and we'll go on their recommendation. If someone's bought something and they say, yeah, do you know what, I'd recommend it, then we're going to follow that. And that's the power that influencers have. They can actually recommend things that they're using, tell a story and tell a narrative, which is why I personally feel it is one of the most powerful ways that iGaming and the gambling industry can make real big steps. So what I'm going to talk through is just how we work on campaigns, because it's quite key, because if you do it wrong, you can get yourself into a world of trouble, and it can be done very poorly, and you're not going to see the value if it's done right, which is the way that we do it. You can still slowly build that lifetime value that we're looking for within the users as well. So our experience in the betting industry, we have run over 390 betting campaigns to date, and obviously we've built out the insights and learnings of that. Now, these are 3 key points. I'll start from the back, though, with the simple offers and deep links. The best way that we found is to offer a simple way to drive high-value FTDs is through simple sign-up offers and exclusive links through the influencers as well. That is an influencer having a serious repertoire with a brand saying, do you know what, this is an exclusive offer to just my page. You can't get it anywhere else, and I am working with this brand directly. That's a way that we can come in as almost the counter agency to sort of have that conversation. And the way that we have that is through our open communication. We speak to these influencers and the clients directly. Most of these guys that I speak to on a day-to-day, myself and my team have on WhatsApp. We are constantly speaking to them. They are always building us proactive decks, which are always nice to see, on how they can, once they know we're working with a brand, they like to offer their services and say, oh, we know the Euros are coming up. Well, this is how we would work with X brand for the Euros. And that's just nice that we can have that open communication so that if, say, you're in contact with myself, I can send you in an email and just say, this guy's been very kind and put this together for you, and we can actively approach him to see how we can go about working together. But the main way that we work well is the flexibility in delivery in the way that we work and we scale. Now, the only way that we can do this is obviously having an open conversation with you and make sure that we're monitoring the influencer's performance correctly. Now, this is where it comes into the actual influencer value, because obviously we want to make sure that we're seeing actual decent customers that are coming at a rate that is good to hit the FTDs, but also to make sure that we're getting an LTV that is respectable for you guys to obviously want to do a campaign again. The way that we do this is that we always take advantage of when people are dropping in activity, and also making sure that we're making the most out of when they've got a good stream of activity as well. As you can see now, when we do a drop of an activity, what happens is that we tend to sort of turn things off a bit. We want to make sure that we're monitoring exactly how the value is going, make sure that we're monitoring that everything is sort of tracking it the right way and we're not destroying the CPA or the target CPA that we're aiming for. But what we also work towards is increasing the lifetime value. So the initial excitement is obviously what you guys offer with the sign-up offer. But then it's the way that we can build that narrative that I mentioned and the participation. How can we build it out further? Is there a way that we build in daily doubles? This is the only place where you can get my racing tips. This is the only place you can get my Euros tips. There's many ways that we can go about doing this, but it just makes it a lot nicer to take it away from just you guys as a brand. You can't obviously push a certain offer, but within our influencers, we can obviously make sure that our guys have the expertise and the betting knowledge that we can then push through as well. So it's almost like you have your own sort of blog posts that are running through our influencers that are giving out tips dedicated to your platforms. And also, long-term campaigns, they tend to work best because obviously we can drive the lifetime value further, and also it gives us time to test and optimize. It is very different influences in terms of the offers, and it's very different in terms of the platform. Some platforms are better for racing, some platforms are better for football. It's all dependent, and it's depending on what influencers we actually pair up with those guys as well. We have racing people that are experts at racing, but if I was to pass them over a football campaign, chances are we're going to see very poor value. But it's all that sort of optimizing and learning that we take into account so that we make sure we've got the best knowledge when going forward for further campaigns and during the campaign. So this is a good example. I drew this together. This is how we scale influencer activity and how we work with tipsters. Now, as you can see, from day one, we've had 111 deposits and we increased the budget based on the form. At the end of that day, what we've seen is our tipster has actually won 4 bets back to back. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to increase the budget again, and we're going to start to push through paid social as well, which I can also answer questions about how we do as well. And we also have the organic uplift of that as well. If someone's winning, again, it's that peer-to-peer recommendation that if they're doing well, I want to follow that bet. I want to follow the journey and I want to follow the story. Daily doubles are fantastic examples of this, that we can get people on a proper user journey that follows it through. This is building the lifetime value and the knowledge the audience has with that tipster. And also, it builds up their, I would say, their affiliation to you guys as brands as well in the audience. Because if they are going to you daily, that means they might see something else that you guys are offering on your platform. As you can see, on day 3, we've had 200 deposits. The budget has stayed the same, and we've continued to push through social. But that evening, the tipster has lost. The tipster has lost, so we no longer have the narrative of a winning streak. We have a losing streak, and he's now hit bottom. So what we've got to do is obviously reduce the budget the next day and stop the paid, so that we make sure we're not inflating that CPA. We're making sure that we're keeping everything at a level that is obviously nice, and it doesn't skew certain days that we're driving the CPA on. We need to make sure that the last thing we want is a day that we've suddenly got a lovely CPA at one level, and next thing you know, everyone, all your analysts back in the office, will suddenly look at this massive spike and go, what the hell happened here? So we'd obviously reduce the spend on that. And again, that is how we carry it on as well. We basically carry on this model to make sure that we can sort of keep that story, keep the influencers happy, because we're still backing them, and we're still getting you guys involved with the brand as well. This is a graph that shows new depositing customers we acquired in a week. Now, as you can see, we've increased and reduced activity based on the success of a tipster's bet. You can see there on the Saturday, that is where the tipster has lost. But as the success builds from Thursday, we continue to push the spend until his bet fails. We're obviously going to try and drive that number of the depositing customers up as high as we can, so we can try and maximize the most of what the story is. But as soon as that tipster loses, it means that we're going to be taking down the spend dramatically to make sure we're not fluctuating too much. This is also very key. Now, what we do at GOAT is we build value reports. Now, this is a good example of a value report from August last year for one of our clients. Now, on the left, you can see the amount and level of NDCs, and below are the influencers that we were using. What we tend to do is break this down into gold to copper value. Now, as you can see, the copper users are only depositing £5. They're not good value. It's either that they're not even meeting the criteria of a opening offer bet, or they're going there for £5 and then not coming back. This is something we actively build with you guys as brands, but also knowledge that we have through AppsFlyer or other mediums that we can actually go through. As you can see, copper, £5 is not what we want, but obviously Influencer One is driving a good level. He's driving good gold memberships, he's driving good silver memberships as well, and bronze as well. What we want is obviously the most gold we can. So if it comes to it within a week, we can look at Influencer 10, and it's me having a very awkward conversation on the phone going, do apologise, we're going to be dropping you from the campaign because your value's shit, so we're not going to be using you again. And going to Influencer One saying, do you know what? We really appreciate the work you're doing, and we'd like to drive this further. Do you have any further channels that you're currently using? And is there any way we can make you exclusive to racing or a further tournament? That's how we build that brand loyalty in further. Now, this is the bit, if some of the people have actually been in the talks when I've plugged them, which will be exciting. These are a couple of example influencers that we use. Tipster Charlie is someone that we've used on countless campaigns. Now, he has a VIP group of followers, which I can come into a bit further knowledge on. VIP groups are great if we can buy the exclusivity to them. It means that only one bookmaker or 2 bookmakers are being pushed for a VIP group. Brands love to see that as value. And also, he's a very knowledgeable and trustworthy tipster, and he's fantastic at sort of priming the tipsters when the games are about to go, and we post always at the optimal times that we know when he's going to be going live and before a game as well. And also, he generates a good level of conversation. It's very easy to just post something, but what we want is something that's actually conversational. Mr. Fix-It Tips. Mr. Fix-It Tips is generally mainly a web-based, due to, as you can see, the disparity within the following. He is actually hosting his own blog and website. Now, he is a very good tipster, especially with the racing, and he creates a lot of articles around the previews and the review posts, which then again, along with just posting tips, can be sponsored. So there's that narrative within these guys' pages and what they do. It maintains the audience engagement further, and it means that obviously we can sort of keep them highly engaged as well. We're replying to thoughts and opinion pieces as well. Now, what does content look like? Now, on the left, we can see a content that is not good. This is not good content on the left because we have actually said this post wouldn't have gone live under my scrutiny when I'm sitting there looking at all these things about to go live before 3 o'clock kickoff, which is very annoying on a Saturday, I can tell you, especially when you're a season ticket holder at West Ham, which is depressing enough. Now, as you can see, the post wouldn't have gone live because it doesn't contain hashtag ad. They have put 18 plus, but we don't have any clear messaging saying that it's actually an ad. We have no understanding that they are being paid. The brand visibility is also not clear enough, but we would see value from the main copy of the content. This bit all makes sense. He's telling a good story, like it's all there, but it wouldn't go live full stop because of the hashtag ad. It's the first thing I look at. I don't even read what they've put. I just see hashtag ad and I go, no, it's not there. End of. Redo. But on the right, what we have is something that does actually meet the compliance. It meets the compliance regulations. It's clear information regarding the welcome offer. And yeah, it's pretty standard. It's nothing exciting. So our campaign recommendations. Our campaign recommendations, we help support activity. Now, this is obviously a better example that I drafted up, but what is good is when brands actually interact with the tipsters we are using. For you guys to sort of say that a tipster is on a running streak, we're working with them, any support that you guys can give us, it also increases the value of that tipster. The tipster has a better affinity and loyalty to you guys because you're backing them, and it looks like they're really part of the ambassadorship, not an influencer, but an ambassador for you guys, which is how I see influencers now. I see them more as ambassadors. It creates conversations with the audience, and also it means that we're drawing that audience away from their channel to give them the opportunity to interact with your social pages as well, which again, everyone's social media team want to see on their betting accounts. And it also showcases the performing influencers and driving the organic uplift as well. So with welcome offers, what we tend to see, simple mechanic, found that extravagant offers, whilst they're successful, chances are the lifetime value is not going to do well in a long-term campaign. And what we want to work towards is improving the lifetime value, utilising simple welcome offers and first-time depositors, as users likely drop off after the initial download. And also, the most effective type of bet that we have seen for influencers is risk-free bets. Now, these are not to be paid out in cash, because obviously, obvious reasons, but if you're giving them a risk-free bet that is going to make them come back, there tends to be an incentive for them to download the app without hesitation. And if we can build that narrative off the back of that initial deposit and that initial risk-free bet, then that's where we hook them on in sense of that we can actually build a story around what our influencers are doing and what you guys are doing as an app as well. Now, deep links are something that we do tend to sort of really push. There's limited barriers of entry. It means that if we can link straight through to a bet slip, if we can link straight through to a user's profile, if that's what your app offers, then that's when we're going to see the best sort of user journey. The simpler we can make a journey, the better. And again, I'd sort of touch on the point of influencer exclusivity as well. Now, making an offer that is exclusive for a page or a social page, again, it means that they are like, wow, I'm part of this brand. I'm part of the story of this brand. They're going to love that, and it's good for consumers as well. You might have yourselves offers, but if we can offer them a further offer within, our tipsters and our pages, then it means that the consumers have somewhere that they know and they can go that they're going to get that offer, and it drives the further value and also depositors for us in terms of attracting high levels of interest on that tipster's page. And also more user-friendly, simple deep link mechanics. They reduce the stages, and also it's just nice and easy that they can sort of click through to the page that they're looking at or the offer that they're looking at as well. We want as few barriers, we all know that. We want as few hurdles as possible for people to go through and actually start using the app itself. Now, again, I'll come on to compliance and how we brief influencers, because this is very obviously a hot topic. This is why influencers get a bad name, and that's where we nail it. We build a compliance and messaging system with the client themselves. We break down the do's and don'ts. We also bring out the mandatory rules of the app and the client's basic key messaging as well. And what we do is, if there are any questions posed by that audience as well, we compose a fact sheet with brands to make sure that the affiliates and the tipsters that we're using are actually building out a fact that they are, what I could say, experts in the field, that they know that they can actually have a conversation on these platforms. We don't want them to just go, I don't know, and then just tag you guys. We want to make sure that these guys are actual experts in their field, and especially with you guys in the brands. And also, we contract these guys per influencer as well, and that can be a working relationship in a sense that if they're doing better, we write up new contracts, and we all know how that works. Tipsters also have a prior knowledge when promoting gambling, so it helps us run through the compliance issues. So like that guy with the hashtag ad where he'd missed it, personally I'd be asking, what have you actually done in this space before, because that's a no-go. So it would have been flagged straight away, so the guy should have known better. It pretty much brings me to the end of my presentation about sort of like bringing us full circle on the peer-to-peer recommendation that betting gives and that tipsters can give to betting. I mean, I'll need to check on my time of exactly what I've got. Am I good for time? I'm perfect for time. So if you do have any questions, I'd love to talk more about tipsters. Question over there on the far left.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh.
Is it off? It's on. So I was just going to ask about the, you said you lower the budget and the spend when if a tipster loses. Is there kind of less room for planning with this kind of thing? And how dynamic does it be? And what if, say, the tipster loses early? What would you do then in the week?
So in terms of like working with them actively to sort of a day-to-day almost, if we were to turn off the budgeting and stuff like that. So say it's a good question. So what we do is, myself and the team, we speak to these tipsters on a daily basis. So what we will do is pretty much brief them that day in terms of their contract. We will set out an allocation of how many posts that we originally contract them into, and we might scale it back from one day. We might want them to post 3 times if they're doing well. On a 4th day, they might be doing, let's say they've had a dip in activity. We might say, do you know what? We actually only want you to post once today. If it's a quiet day and we've got no football going on, then chances are we might even say, do you know what? Just leave it till tomorrow and we'll start building the streak again. Like it's all active about that. And the way that we work with brands as well, that we allocate a spend and a time frame as well. But the best way to do it really is to sort of allocate the spend without a time frame so that we can work to our best. If we have the time constraints of a time period, say that we need to get a certain amount in a certain period of time, there's a good chance that if someone's on a winning streak of, our longest winning streak that I can remember from last summer was someone was on a winning streak of 18 daily doubles. We had a day that, we were looking at the depositors that were coming through, and I was pretty much calling up the brand saying, look, I want to push this as much as I can, but I don't know how far do you go with it, because I don't want to, ruin the day. But at the same time, it's an active conversation that needs to be had between client, and that's where we are. We're very honest. We're very honest with you guys. We don't want to screw the CPA. We don't want you guys to look bad. We want to make sure that you guys look at us to see as a valued chain, that we're going to bring in these customers that are going to bring not only great user experience, but also, I guess, value is the main thing we're going for.
Could you please tell me if you had the chance to work with casino influencers, or how they might look like? Would it be the same Twitter blogs, or what it should be for casino?
Yeah, so we use casino on Twitter. We do casino on Twitch as well. Twitch does very well with casino. We've seen that previously. But we do run casino campaigns as well. And in a similar fashion as well, like we've got quite a few of these guys, especially with the tipsters that are not just dedicated to sports. So like I showed you, like Tipster Charlie. Tipster Charlie, is quite active within his casino as well. Now, he does casino, he does slots as well. Now, it's just about building the conversation to make sure that it's in the right audience, you know. It can look very odd if you've got someone like, it would look very odd personally, insider knowledge, it would look very odd if Mr. Fix-It Tips was to do casino, because it's not something he does and it's not something his audience would do. So it's an active approach that we will look at audiences from previous data and say, this isn't the right fit for them, it's the right fit for them. And that's something that we do as when we're in that briefing stage, we slowly build out exactly who are the right people to work with this brand and where do we want them to sort of go. Now, back to the question, I would say that Twitter is very good for casino, and I would say that Twitch is good for casino. And also, again, I know there was a conversation earlier about Facebook as well. We work with whitelisted pages on Facebook, which tends to be the rule that they are the only pages that can run gambling, which are the ones that we sort of work closely with. That also can see great results with the casino as well.
Thanks.
Hi, I'd like to ask about how you actually go about identifying influencers. Like going back to the iceberg slide, like you have the vanity metrics at the top, but the ones that matter are the ones below. How would you actually see them and then identify them?
Yeah, so what we do is we've got, I touched on it earlier, but we have a CRM of data of where we work with all of our influencers previously. So we build out the information that we've worked with, and we basically gather all the data from past campaigns so we know where to benchmark. But also with the influencers that say we've never worked with before, that's an active process between our campaigns team. So our campaigns team will go out and speak to these influencers directly, whether it be via email, whether it be via even, believe it or not, just DMing them on Twitter or something like that. It can be that simple that we get that first chain of command. And then it's just being very open with each other, that we literally say to them, look guys, we've got a brand that wants to work with this sort of influencer. On paper, you look the bee's knees, you look great, but we need to know whether you're actually going to give the results that we're going to go out and promise, because at GOAT we work to guaranteed deliverables. We don't get, you know, the way that we work is that we obviously want to hit those guarantees because that's what's on our contract with brands. So we work actively, whether they are drawing that data from their own social platforms, giving that to us. And yeah, it's just an active process, really. And yeah, it differs, but most of them are phone calls. And yeah, I have them weekly, so yeah. Anything further? Fantastic. I'll be around at the back if anyone's got anything else, but thank you very much.